Hi, and welcome to another episode of Why You Should Watch. And as you probably seen from the artwork in the title, this week we're going for a 2008 film called Waltz with Bashir. Now, Waltz with Bashir is an animated documentary which sounds not great. I've got to say, I can't think of too many other animated documentaries. There are certainly animations that I can think of that tell of a certain period and place and document the times of. But this one is, for all intents and purposes, a standard documentary in that it features interviews with people that were in and around the time of the Lebanon War in 1982. And the filmmaker Ari Folman was a 19-year-old fighter in the war at that time, and he documents basically what happened in and around that place, and it does so in the form of the character in the film who's suffering from PTSD of some sort. He remembers being in the war and he remembers the events that happened, but he doesn't know where he fits in those events. So from very early on in the film, there's the talk of a massacre, and he can remember being there, but he doesn't remember what he did or what role that he played in that massacre. And it is only through talking to friends and people who were in the war with him at the same time that little bits start to unlock in his memory of those events, but certainly with more clarity than he had beforehand. So as he travels around each of those people, he gets a bit more out of it. And people that he thought were in certain places at certain times, his memory has failed him. And so the film goes that it uses these interviews, which are, again, they've rotoscoped or done animation over the top of the interviews so that it all appears animated. And then while that's going on, there's been vignettes of the events that are happening out. So some of them are pure animation, and I'd say some are, again, rotoscoped or animation over the top of live footage. But one of the really interesting things about Waltz with Bashir is that it takes some very horrific material and presents it beautifully. I mean, the animation in this is done with such care and such love and such luscious colours in some ways that it's almost appealing, even though the events are horrific. Plus, you also get to represent some of the events in a kind of abstract way. So, you know, if it was just filmed, for instance, as a documentary, you wouldn't be able to add some of the touches that are almost Banksy-esque. He has visions of a woman coming to him, but she is a gigantic woman in this thing, and he basically rests in her bosom. It's something that wouldn't have been able to be done with raw footage. Even the footage of dogs moving and barking, or shots being fired, or it's all in there as if you were in the moment. So the terror that those young men were under, being thrust into that kind of war at such a young age, has been alluded to in one of the scenes. This young man went from a stage where he'd never seen an open wound, a flesh cut in his life, and all of a sudden he's traveling along in a tank, and he's surrounded by people that are critically and mortally wounded and dead in some places, and they're just all around his feet. And it is horrific. How does the human mind process that other than to shut down and try and block some of that stuff out? There's some investigation also into the psychology of trauma. And like a lot of films that are made about difficult periods or contentious events, they're not always easy to watch. But it was hard not just to sit agape and go, wow. Now, certainly as with all documentary, and I think with any storytelling, some people will say that it's accurate or inaccurate, but this is a personal account. You can see that it's a personal account from somebody of their experiences and their view of the war. And any story can be subjective, but I think it's important to watch the films or watch the viewpoints of it there. I wasn't involved in Lebanon in 1982. I was a 4-year-old boy myself. I didn't even know these events had happened. So something like Waltz with Bashir was incredibly powerful. I got this released many years ago. It's an artificial eye release. It's one of actually the first ones, I think. But it was dual format. You see, but there is dual format there. There is a making of documentary and a interview with the filmmaker on it and the trailer on it as well. So it's not an empty release, so to speak. There are some stuff there. I will say the making of documentary is on YouTube for free. If you want to go find it, it's quite extensive and it's in there. So you can watch that beforehand as well. But it's a breathtaking film at times. It's one that will really sit with you, and while you may have to watch it in patches because it can be quite difficult, what they do at the end of the film seems to be a bit contentious. I've read and seen some reviews of people didn't like it. I thought it just brought everything home to you, and I'll not say what it is because I think that the filmmaker was going for an impact at the end of the documentary or the film that you'll have to make your own mind up over as to what it is. Having said that, if you have seen the film, if you have seen the end, you can certainly discuss it down in the comments, and if you haven't, check it out and then come back to me and let me know what you think, because like I say, I think you should watch Waltz with Bashir. Thanks very much for watching, take care, and I'll speak to you all again soon. All the best, bye.